hang on to your seat, baby, because this one's a screamer. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
What is going on, Entertain? So Tim come tell with another video. We talking Royce reads expose of Dwight Howard part 2. You guys have been asking for the second part, so I made sure to drop it to you guys before we go into the new week. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Now, there's been some updates in regards to the story. Now, y'all saw in part 1 of my reaction to this story time by Royce that basically she was always in the courts. A lot of people felt like, oh, all this money that she was getting with child support, where was it going? Legal fees and lawyer fees are not cheap. So I hate when people say that because people don't understand how much money that accumulates to, especially when you're constantly going back into court. This is why I'm more so sided with Royce than anything. I will say, though, that I think her biggest downfall was sort of in the earlier ages, making it public some of their kind of not issues, but the fact that they had some sort of relation together. I don't think that she should have been to the point where she doesn't say who her BD is, but that Wendy Williams situation, I don't think was the best thing to do. Y'all get what I'm saying? So because of everything that she's revealed recently, he has filed some legal paperwork again towards her. Okay. Now she posted this on TikTok about some of the legal paperwork that she did get from his attorney. It says, I have retained to represent Dwight Howard. Continuing and escalating statements and potentially defamatory statements made by you against him. Mr. Howard is aware of various malicious and potentially libelous statements you have published online and otherwise shared with the public. Any misrepresentation regarding his personal life and or fabricated claims may have already and certainly could see significant damage to Mr. Howard's reputation in the future. First of all, his reputation to me isn't the best just off the strength of himself. That whole T-girl with the nigga situation, that had nothing to do with Royce. I'm just saying. So it's not like he had the best rep out here. The Glycan law firm, on behalf of Mr. Howard, demands that on or before January 7, 2025, you immediately issue a public retraction that is of equal prominence and format to your false statements and remove said statements from all media sources. You are hereby cautioned and instructed to cease and desist from any further dissemination or publication of false statements. Should you not take these steps, Mr. Howard is prepared to proceed with litigation. To be clear, you must immediately cease and desist from making any false statement or allegations and should immediately issue a public apology that must be clear, unequivocally, and widely circulated. Girl, they basically say, bitch, you better go to the shade room, neighborhood talk, and some more ish. The same places you went and told his tea. That's what I'm getting from this, right? Right. I encourage you to abide by the terms of this letter to avoid legal action. Govern yourself accordingly. These legal paperwork be having a lot of nerve with the grammar and the vernacular that they use to basically tell you to shut the fuck up. Yours truly, very truly yours, Adam and M. Glecken. Here's what I think. Royce should take it down. Let me tell you why. We've already known the story now. So your point has been made. You are, as in your words, an ant fighting an elephant. Right now, she does not have the coins to really fight this legally. Now, she has posted a GoFundMe for us to support her because she at one point said that she thought of unaliving herself as well, and that she said it's really embarrassing. She said, first, I want to thank you all for your outpouring of love and support. It means more than you can imagine. Prior to telling my story of how my life changed when I had a baby by Superman, my son and I have been struggling for over 17 years. I've dealt with harassment, threats, defamation, and career loss. I eventually fell into a depression. I still dance on TikTok and smile through the pain because I felt at some point I'll pull through. Luckily, I did due to my village. There were days I thought about taking a full bottle of sleeping pills or running off an overpass and believing if I was strong enough to just do it. By the time I changed my mind, it would be too late. After this man took everything from us, my savings, my mother's savings, and my dignity, he still proceeded to harass and belittle me. Most recently, he spoke to our son on PlayStation Party and degraded me, his mother, so bad to the point our son went off. I have worked since I was 16, but the bills I've accumulated dealing with this man are immense. That's where my courage came from. That's why I chose to speak out. But also because there's a new agreement, I'm now being threatened with yet another lawsuit, which I did just read. I'm not gonna read the rest of the statement, y'all. But I just feel like we now have the full story. So your point has been made. I just feel like just for her mental health, she needs to take it down. There's other even interviews that are not on her platform of her telling some of the same stuff, not in detail as if she did on the TikTok, but a lot of the same stuff. So it's like well, at least I believe a lot of things that she has said about this man. So your point has been made. Don't put yourself more in a financial ruin just to prove a point. And I will say, the GoFundMe though, I don't really agree with, because asking us everyday Americans, which she's an everyday American as well, don't get me wrong, for coin for something like this is a little side-eyeable. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Now I don't agree y'all should be bashing the girl just because she reaching out for help. If you can't donate, don't donate. Okay? That's just how I feel. But her putting that GoFundMe up is, it's not, it doesn't look the best after this whole situation. Okay? Now let's go on to this reaction of the second part of her stories on. Also, I want to say on that last reaction, I had like these white hairs all over. That's chocolate. I'm looking at him right now in my patio. He's sleeping out here. That mother is sheds like it's nobody's business. So that's what that was. And I look back at it, I'm like, oh my God, I look so dirty because of his ass. But that's what that was, y'all. If y'all was one of them little white hairs that would appear like later on in the videos, because I kept picking him up and all that stuff because he's an attention whore. Anyways, let's continue. I had to mention that.
It's Royce, and I'm back again to tell you about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004, and still now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part three. We are now in January of 2008, and I am at my cousin's house, the same cousin that stays around the corner from him. He calls and he says that he wants to come and have a talk with me. I said, okay. He comes by. Superman is bearing gifts. There's a brand new car outside for me, a Lexus SUV, a brand new sidekick phone, and he offers to buy me a house. After talking it over with my dad, my mom, it was absolutely not, because the house is not going to be in your name. And it's something that he can take from you at any moment if he gets mad. So I declined it. He then said, well, let me refurnish your townhouse. Okay. I was not asked about any type of furniture. They just showed up at my door one day and just started bringing stuff in. No lie. I had no say so. When it came down to me needing diapers and bottles and now formula, because I'm no longer able to breastfeed, my body wasn't producing enough milk. His mom did at one point come by with a bunch of diapers. I was very thankful. But that was it. There was nothing else. There was no help. There was nothing. At this point, I auditioned for a dancing gig at Holy Land, and I got the gig. So I began dancing in late January. So now I have a job. I'm working. On the days that I had to work, my child was with my parents. And on occasion, he would be with his father and the nanny and his girlfriend. Well, there were days where he would come home from seeing or spending time with his father, and he would be very colicky, throwing up, like sick. I mean, fevers. Would have to take him to the doctor. It was a lot. That relationship he was in ended. I find out later on that the reason my child was returned super colicky, sick, throwing up, all these things, only to then be told it was because they were purposely giving him food that was opposite of what he was eating. I would pack a bag and I would have it listed of what he should be eating for lunch, for dinner, all these things. And he was intentionally given the opposite. So when he would be returned home, he was sick, colicky, throwing up, having to go to the hospital. When I confronted the situation, I was told that that was a lie and that it was only done because they thought I was trying to micromanage, and they decided that they were just going to give him whatever they wanted to give him. Okay, I let it go, y'all. Now, again, we've had the birthday party, we've had our Christmas. Things seem to be going okay, right? We've now gone to mediation, and in mediation, we agreed to a child support number, and it was drastically, probably a third of what one of my attorneys was requesting. I said that I didn't want to seem like I was out for his money, so I was okay with the amount that was given. Totally fine. Moving forward, I start dating. Now all of a sudden it's, I think we should make this work. This
Mm.
is your first kid. This is, my first kid. Let's make this work. Now, this is where I could probably be stupid. Well, I was dumb. I saw family, and I am a very forgiving person. If you know anything about me, I forgive way too much. So we decided to work on a relationship.
I believe this because as an avid watcher of Basketball Wives, Susie should have never been your friend Royce. And anytime Royce would do some dumbass shit, Susie would. Every time Susie would do dumbass shit, Royce would forgive her like quickly. And I'm like, oh my god, why you keep forgiving this messy bitch every time? So she not lying, okay? I seen it.
Crazy, right? But we did. Um, Almost immediately, I regretted it. I was forced to do things sexually that I did not um, necessarily agree with. But because I wasn't that experienced, I thought it was normal. Um, and I never complained about it. I just felt like this was me experiencing things that maybe he has experienced and I have not. That's when things started turning verbally and physically and also mentally abusive. I was told that I was stupid. I was told that nobody would ever want me. I was told that everybody here loved him.
Now when she says that about the experiences and stuff with the stuff that she didn't necessarily agree or like to do. Of course, my mind goes to the story that came out recently about him with that whole situation that, they settled out of court for and all that. So, hmm.
And hated me. And how does it feel to have my hometown turn on me? I better not ever leave him. If I left him ever, he would make my life a living hell.
That fuck nigga kept that promise.
And he did. There were days that I would be at his home and I was threatened with a knife, and then it was laughed off. But when the knife was in my face, it was, I could kill you right now and get away with it because I could claim self defense and they would believe me and not you because who are you? That happened. He came to my house one day to pick up our child, and because I did not have a bag packed or orange Trident gum or soda in my refrigerator, he followed me into our child's closet and he grabbed me and he pushed me to the floor and said, in the future, I better have his bag waiting. I then left. I go out into the family room and I'm telling his best friend, the one that's an inch away from being a little person, And I'm like, get your friend. He's going crazy. What's wrong with him? Well, he comes in there and he, in front of his best friend, as well as my goddaughter, my other goddaughter, he grabs my hair and he forces me to the floor. And he's like, who the are you talking to? Our child, who is not even two yet, is thinking he's playing. So he's grabbing at his leg with his baby voice and he throws me into the entertainment center. When he threw me into the entertainment center, it broke the door. So I was flung into the one on the right, and our son, who was grabbing him and like thinking he was playing, he then flung him into the other door. I do not think that was intentional. I don't think he knew his own strength, but that's what he did. And it did break that door as well. Our son started crying. His best friend was like, man, what you doing? Like, that's a female. And he's just not caring. That's when I realized, like, oh my God, I'm in a relationship that I swore I would never be in. Now, moving on, the day that I really wanted to leave was a day where I did not want to have relations with him. And he then forced me to give him fellatio. I know you're wondering, how does someone force you into doing that? When you are dealing with someone that is that big and you are that small and you're terrified of them and they have gotten away with so much and doing so many things, and you're still the one made out to be crazy and bitter, you're probably willing to do just about anything just to get through it. And that's where I was. After that, another nanny came into the picture. I knew this nanny was not okay. When she would drop our child off, he would sit in the doorway and he was hitting himself. Or he would be in the bathtub and he would be playing with himself in a really weird way that just didn't seem right. Of course, he was little, so he couldn't really vocalize things. But yeah, I could tell something wasn't right. There was the day where I invited her inside and I sat her down and I said, I just need to talk to you. And I said, have you ever put your hands on my son? And she swore up and down no. And I said, well, why is he sitting in the doorway hitting himself or playing with himself in the bathtub? And she was like, oh my God, I don't know. Why would you even ask me something like that? I said, because I want to know. She swore up and down that she had never put her hands on my son in an inappropriate way or even as a disciplinarian. I said, okay. And I said, but if I find out that you have ever put your hands on my son, we're going to have a problem. She asked me if that was a threat. I said, no, it's not a threat. It's a promise. She then went back and told them that I threatened her. And I told them the same thing, that I didn't threaten her, that I made a promise. And that's when things started getting hidden from me about what was going on at that house with my child. But I found out anyway. This is also around the time that Basketball Wives was coming to fruition. Hey y'all, it's
Oh my God.
Hey y'all, it's Royce, and I'm here to tell you how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004, up until even now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part 4. So I need to go back through 2009 a little bit more in depth because that's where a lot of your questions are. So the first part of 2009, I'll say the first quarter, I am confiding in Shawnee. I'm talking to her about pretty much everything I'm going through. She was one of the first people.
I'm not a big fan of Shawnee. A lot of y'all know this. Okay, her nostrils are just never up to any good, in my opinion. So the fact that she knew all of this since she was confiding in her was kind of sick to me because we saw how Royce was treated, especially being a basketball wife. So it's sad.
First people I told that I was pregnant, so I really thought I had a friend. When it came down to me telling her that Superman had reached out about trying to work things out, it was do what you feel is best for you and your son. Follow your heart. Don't listen to what people have to say. Nothing biased. So I decide to work things out. As we're working things out, there are also conversations about a reality show. When I discussed it with him, he was all for it. He wanted to do it. He was excited about it. I told Shawnee, and easy sell. So during this time, we are working on our relationship. We are out in public. I mean, I'm going to the games. Our son is wearing his jersey. We had a Magic Dancer reunion. It was just a lot going on. I am buying a house. I am shooting a sizzle reel in Miami for the show. And that's when the verbal assault started. But I took my ass to LA and I went and I pitched that show to all those different networks. And I talked about how great of a relationship I was in. And I just knew I got it sold. I get back home and I find out that I have been cheated on with several women. All that I kept thinking in my head was, this man does not like to use condoms. I went off. I went to the clinic, I got tested, and I went off on Twitter. I mean, woo! I was letting his ass have it, y'all. Of course, he got pissed off, and we like broke up. And then a couple days later is when he comes by the house, and he's supposed to be picking up our son. He's mad.
Speaking of the sizzle reel, apparently it was really Royce's like effort that really got Basketball Wives really started. Of course, they use Shawnee as like the face of it because she was with Shaq at one point and has all these kids by Shaq. So it was like she was like the main trophy holder. But apparently Royce was the one that was really putting in a lot of the groundwork. If you guys watch her interview with Carlos, she talks about that in detail.
Because I would usually have a backpack and some of his favorite snacks at my house, but we're not together, so why the fuck would I have that? But anyway, obviously he's in a bad mood, so I'm just trying to ignore his attitude. He's yelling in the house like, "Oh, I'm ready to go," and "Where's his bag?" And I'm like, "It's in the closet." He goes to the closet, and I'm asking him like, "Yo, you good? Like, you okay? Because you acting real strange." He turns around and proceeds to tell me how stupid and useless I am, how I'm worth nothing, how nobody will ever want me, no man is ever gonna want to be with me, how I'm the best that he could ever get. I'll be back. All these things. That's when I go into the family room and I tell his friend, like, "Yo, get your friend. He acting crazy. Like, what's wrong with him?" And he comes out. That's when he grabs my hair, flings me into the entertainment center. Same thing with our son. I told this story in part 3. I don't really want to have to rehash it. But before they left, obviously his friend is saying, "Hey, man, stop. That's a female." But he's still screaming and calling me every name besides the one I was given. They then pick up our son and they leave. I'm now left to have this conversation about what just happened with my goddaughter. After that, I then had to pick up our son from his house. And I'm sorry, y'all. I do not know why I laugh or smile when I'm telling my trauma. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I know it looks weird. I know it looks crazy. I don't know if it's a coping mechanism. I don't know. I'm sorry.
You know what's crazy? I have the same sort of thing. When I'm saying something that like when I'm uncomfortable, I giggle. I giggle. It's even got me in trouble up at work. It got me slapped on before because it's like a coping mechanism for me. So it's like the whole time she was telling the story, she was like smiling. I knew exactly what that was. Like that was her trying to mask everything she was saying.
I'll go and pick him up from his house after this visitation, and I'm in his room, and that's when the knife situation happened. It should also be noted that prior to me going to pick up our son, we had had a few conversations, and I forgave him again. So I get to the house, and he asked me to come into his room. I go, he closes the door, and he pulls a knife out on me. He says, "I could really kill you right now and claim self defense, and they would believe me because everyone loves me here and they hate you." To attempt to rewrite history is crazy because those of you who were at the house that day know exactly what happened. But maybe that hypnotism did work. Hmm. So he comes over to the house about a week or so later, and we're hanging out with our son, watching a movie in the family room. Remember, we're trying to work things out. And I go to the bathroom. When I come out the bathroom, he's in the bedroom. He wants to have sex. I say, no, my cycle is on. He says he wants head. And I say, no, our son is right there in the other room. He proceeds to get up. He shuts the door. He comes over to me and he pushes me down to the floor like he did before. And he proceeds to ram his waist into my face. If you can imagine what that feels like, think about someone punching you in your nose at 6'11, 200 pounds, and their pants are still on. Think about that happening over and over and over again to you. You're now in tears. Your son is in the next room. You've already basically been told that you're hated by your hometown, so call the police on Superman, Clark Kent, baby Jesus of Orlando? No, you can't do that. Okay, so that situation happened, and that is what ultimately led me to leave the relationship. Not soon after that, the show got picked up. And that's when contracts started going around, and our attorneys started speaking with each other. And because I was still signed on to do the show and he was not, they were concerned about what I was going to say on the show. So they were like, well, we just want to make sure that she doesn't say anything bad about him because of his career. And we don't want any type of, defamation. And of course, I'm like, well, is it defamation if it's true? But okay. And then it was also me saying, well, I don't plan on that being my storyline. I don't have to talk bad about him. I don't really have to talk about him at all. The next day, my attorney calls me to his office and he's like, hey, you need to get here as soon as
From what I
possible.
remember, the early season of basketball, she never talked about that dude, like ever. Like that never like Royce's storyline was like the dancer that had a rep of being like a nasty dancer type vibe. Like it never gave like, oh, I have like the worst BD relationship. It was always her in a struggling relationship that was not him, or the girls judging her because of her past as a team dancer. So that's from what I remember.
I need you to sign this agreement. And I was like, what agreement? He said, the agreement about what we talked about yesterday with you and Superman. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I get in my car, and I think I was even at the park because I was close. But I get to his office, and it's not even 4:50 yet. It's like 4:40 something. And he's like, sign this agreement. So I'm looking at it first. I'm trying to like at least skim it. And he goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just checking I'm supposed to read everything. So he says it's basically the conversation that we had, a couple days prior, just in writing. I said, okay. I signed the paper. I trusted him to my detriment. He then goes, hurry up, we got to go. I'm like, okay. So we're rushing out the office. I'm right behind this man, and we go to get in the car. He's like, what you doing? I was like, you said we got to go. And he was like, well, not you. I was like, what do you mean, not me? He's like, you're not dressed appropriately. I had on an orange tank top and jeans and sneakers. This man went to court, and rather than me not be there for the judge to ask me if I knew what I was signing, for the judge to go through the different provisions of what that agreement said, and me have to agree to it, my attorney did that. You want to know what that agreement said? That I could not say his name, any type of insinuation, his middle name, nobody in his family's name, his friend's name. I couldn't even talk. I couldn't even say my son's name, y'all. And if anybody in the room was even talking about him, I would have to leave. And it said not till death, but till death and the end of time. An attorney later withdrew as my attorney. But there's a new agreement in place, which trumps the old one.
So the end of time is crazy.
Hey
That's like
y'all,
on
it's
some like Diddy shit.
it's Royce, and I'm here to tell you a story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004 to even now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part 5. I think it's also important to note when people ask, well, why couldn't you all try and work this out? Y'all needed therapy. We were actually given a parenting coordinator, and I went to all the appointments. He went to one. He stopped showing up.
Where I feel like I skipped a part, y'all. Hold on.
Hey, y'all.
Oh no, I didn't. I
Hey,
didn't.
hey, y'all. It's because it was
Oh no, I
all.
didn't. I didn't.
Hey, y'all. It's Royce, and I'm here to tell you a story about how my life changed beginning. I think it's also important to note when people ask, well, why couldn't you all try and work this out? Y'all needed therapy. We were actually given a parenting coordinator, and I went to all the appointments. He went to one. He stopped showing up. So she ended up writing a letter stating that she could not do her job because of his failure to participate. So we are now at the end of 2009. And unbeknownst to me, this agreement I've signed has just basically destroyed my life. Well, not only am I fighting him in civil court, but I'm also fighting him in family court. They are filing all these motions claiming that I am denying visitation when half the time they asked for it, he wasn't even in town. But what does that mean? More attorney fees, more court costs. So every time a motion was filed, we had to answer. During this time, I am also dealing with one of his minions that is going on the internet and threatening to fight me at my son's birthday party. She was saying that someone was going to end up at the 33rd Street jail, that they needed to have her bail money because there was going to be trouble. I am expressing my concern regarding this person, and finally, it was agreed that she would not come. So now here we are in the first quarter of 2010, and I'm filming the show. I am living my best life. I am outside. I am dancing at pool parties. And here comes another lawsuit. What does that mean?
Oh man. That was an era, okay? That really was the era. You had to be there. Like I remember watching that as a kid on TV. Like I'm telling you, I've been watching reality TV when I wasn't supposed to. Like I remember watching that as a child, gagging. Like, whoa. I wasn't the kid that grew. I watched Disney and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but like I was also watching Love and Hip Hop, Basketball Wives, Jersey Shore, that type of vibe. So I was kind of grown when I was little. I'm not gonna lie.
Another set of retainer fees. There goes my first check. So the second quarter of 2010, I am getting drained with attorney fees. I'm fighting him in family court as well as civil court. And I'm also doing promo for the show. I am now asked to go on the Wendy Williams show, not as a guest, but as a how you doing girl. She asked me if my son's father was Superman. I said yes. I'm now sued. I am sued for $500 million.
This is where I feel like she shouldn't have did. Like I said earlier in this video, I feel like she shouldn't have done that whole Wendy Williams situation. Because I just think that was like the nail in the coffin. At that time, Wendy was at her highest, meaning everybody was tuning in. It was a whole lot of viewers at that point in regards to Wendy. Like this is who we looked up to get the gossip. So it's like you didn't have to do that show. You didn't have to do the how you doing and then admit that's your BD because it's like the internet already started kind of new. You get what I'm saying?
As I'm dealing with this latest lawsuit and people are laughing at me all over the internet and wishing hell on me, hoping that I go to jail, calling me every name in the book, I am also getting harassed by the same person who threatened to fight me at my son's birthday party. She is sending me messages about, ha ha ha, how does it feel to not be number one anymore? How does it feel to know you're not the only one? Don't you feel stupid? And what was she talking about? We have welcomed baby number two, a little girl born in June of 2010. In September of 2010, there was another lawsuit. What does that mean? More money, in which at this point I did not have. He won. There was a writ of garnishment that was made out for November of 2010. And they went and looked for every single account that I had. And they took everything from me. Not only did they do that, they found the account that I had with my mother since I was a little girl, the very first account I ever had, and she was attached to it. It wasn't even an account that I used anymore. But because they didn't get anything out of that account from me, they took everything from her. They took my mom's entire savings. In the early part of 2011, I released my book, College Girls. I was hosting parties. I had a boyfriend, the one that bought me the dog. I was doing the weekly blog for the show. I was in Detroit doing the play Cheaters. I was hustling, y'all. Come June of 2011, wouldn't you know, by the grace of God, out pops Superman and Sister C. This one is a Christian. She is modest. She is a beautiful girl, all natural. And I mean, very Little House on the Prairie. Perfect for his image. He is getting baptized. He is giving himself to God. He is in love. Visitations seem as if they are becoming more consistent. So I'm grateful. August comes, and because visitation has become a little bit more consistent, my son is now waiting for him on the curb. Yes, just like the little picture of the kid sitting on the curb with a lunchbox waiting for their parent that never comes. That was my child, the one and only time I allowed him to do that. But nobody called to say that they weren't coming. And because I turned into the FBI, I find bitches instantly. I went on Twitter because I wanted to know where he was. And this was around the time where people were putting all their business out there. So I saw a picture and he was in New Jersey. He was on a basketball court with his and Pastor Zachary Timms. Oh, I had to go back through my calendar and I was making sure that this was a day that he was supposed to have our son. And it was. And I reached out to my attorney. I sent the picture to my attorney and I'm like, what is going on? There was no response. So the next day, I get back on the internet because I want to see if there's at least a timeline of a return because my plans have now changed, but it's always been that way. Well, all of a sudden, the Twitter page went from 10,000 plus tweets to 10, 20. What happened? Did he find out that I saw that he was in New Jersey and didn't get our son for visitation? No. I then see a headline that says Pastor Zachary Timms is no longer with us. Oh,
So Zachary Timms, you guys, is him. He had a mega church in Orlando. This is what he looked like, you guys. And he was found unalive in a hotel room, allegedly with substance in his pocket. Okay. Now, as a teenager, reading from this article, they said Zachary Timms was a drug addict who found himself convicted of attempted unaliving. He turned to religion because he said God has a greater plan. He eventually founded an Orlando megachurch. The ending to God's plan for Timms, he was found unalive this past weekend in a guest room at the W Hotel in New York City. Tim's body was found Friday night at the luxury hotel in Times Square when a worker entered his room to check the minibar. The Wall Street Journal reports that the authorities located a white glassine envelope with a white powder in the right pocket of the pastor's shorts. They believe the powder to be a narcotic. Glassine envelopes are often used to store substances such as powder donuts and pop rocks. Authorities have not confirmed whether the powder donuts was connected to the death. Timms founded the New Destiny Christian Center in Apopka, Florida in 1996. The church now counts more than 8,000 members. Timms also has made himself in the televangelism and frequently appeared on TBN. And they say, however, Timms didn't practice what he preached. He divorced his wife and mother of four children in 2009 after admitting to a year-long extramarital affair with a stripper. Okay. Now, apparently, him and Dwight, according to Royce, were like bosom buddies.
For the rest of that year, I minded my business. Although I was still fighting in court and talking about this nanny and being told I was a liar, I kept my mouth shut. Well, now we're in January of 2012, and I am dating my football player, and I am happy. A picture comes out of him taking a nap with my son, fully clothed, very innocent picture. The narrative that is given is that my boyfriend was being inappropriate with him. They took that narrative and they ran with it for weeks. They didn't care that it could destroy this person's character, his career, his reputation, nothing. It wasn't about the nanny who was actually being inappropriate, it was about a distraction. Why? Well, in February, that is when I was made aware that he was leaving Orlando. And then in March, here comes baby number three. Baby number three is over a year old. Baby number three is a little girl. Baby number three was born the same year as baby number two. We are now in April of 2012, and Superman is having back surgery in California. And I'm ecstatic that he is no longer here because I'm thinking he's going to leave me alone. He does not. I am hit with another lawsuit. In this lawsuit, I am almost immediately demanded to send my child to California for 6 weeks. I get 1 week of visitation. Yes, I was forced to send my child to California for 6 weeks to be with a person that he has not seen in 6 months, even when he was in Orlando. That visitation exchange was probably one of the worst situations I've ever had to endure. I watched my child hyperventilate. I watched my child scream. I watched my child reach for me to take him, and I had to let him go. I was given a visit halfway through, and I saw the same exact thing. And I was also there with one of my dancer friends that I dance with in Miami, who I also dance with sometimes when I take a heels class. They were there to console me because I could not, in my mind, save my child. After that visitation, I was hit in court with more motions, more visitation requests for days that he was not even in town. And there was one time where we actually did communicate and came up with a visitation schedule, and flights had already been made, but his attorneys wanted to go to court claiming that I was denying visitation. I went to court that day and I showed the judge that we already had the flight information. His attorneys sat there and were acting so oblivious as if they had no idea. In 2013, I'm hit with more court filings and requests.
I also want to say, I watched the show, right, that Dwight Howard was on, because y'all, he has been on reality TV. For the girls that don't know, haven't done their research, called Special Forces, and that show's interesting to me because it did show like what I like with that show. They sort of break you down, military style, find out your weaknesses, some of the character traits that you may have that's problematic, and a lot of them were interesting. So if y'all ever check that out, check it out.
to produce as usual. But around April, I'm hearing rumors of another baby. Well, come June, that baby is born, a little boy. And I say on Twitter, congratulations, happy birthday. This Hey y'all, it's Royce, and I am here to tell you a story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004, up until even now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part six. We are now in the fall of 2013. I am getting my son prepared for kindergarten. I have actually gotten him tested, and he has been diagnosed with ADHD. For those of us with children who have ADHD and have taken medication for it, you know, ADHD medication is not something that you can start and just stop cold turkey. So there were visitations that were happening and they were refusing to give him his medication. I was also against him traveling so much because he's literally in kindergarten, the first grade of grade school. So outside of my son having to travel on Friday nights to Sunday evenings just to get up for school the next day and go, I am now concerned because they are refusing to give him his medication. They lied and said that they had a doctor from Sarasota come and examine him. And when I spoke to that doctor in Sarasota, that doctor said that he absolutely did not examine my son. He only told them what the medications that he was taking were for. He also let them know that it was dangerous to stop the medication cold turkey. They did it anyway. And now we are moving into the summer of 2014. Our son has completed kindergarten and he is now going to visit his father for a few weeks in the summer. I find out that almost 3 days after our son arrived, he left. He had actually been gone for several weeks and I had no idea because nobody was communicating with me. When my son is finally returned home, I am actually at practice with my company, and my parents call and say that I need to get to their home immediately. I ask why, they won't tell me, they just express that it was extremely important. Of course, I leave, I get there, they tell me that my son has bruises all over his body. I go to hug him and him me, and he goes, ouchie. I then look, I raise his shirt. He has a bruise on his stomach. He now has a bruise on his leg, on his inner thigh. And when I ask him what happened, he tells me his daddy did it. This is just a couple of days before he is to start first grade. So, of course, I am texting trying to figure out what happened and why, and I am being ignored. I am then told by my attorney that I need to take my child down to the Department of Children and Families. I do that, and they do a forensic interview. They talk to me, and they start asking me to contact Superman. I am doing so, and I am trying to tell him what is going on, and he is ignoring me until he finally responds and says that he doesn't have to tell me anything about why he disciplined or spanked our child. Because of that response, a case was opened. The case was almost immediately shut
Child.
quietly. Because of my concern and because I said something publicly, the case was reopened. The case was then sent to Georgia because it happened in Georgia. It was sent to 3 different counties in Georgia until it got to the county that his uncle was the DA of, and the case was dropped. But I'm not saying that he had anything to do with it. As you can probably guess, at this point, visitation ceased. Communication did as well for the most part, except for the fact that they sent a picture around of me taking my son to Hooters for his birthday and made it seem as if I was a sick mother. In 2015, we barely communicated at all. There were no visitation requests. There was just a bunch of motions filed here and there. So, of course, more money. As we get to the end of 2015, the communication doors are reopened. And Superman and I are communicating. It seems as if we are working on co parenting. He asked if we can come to Houston in January of 2016, and I said yes. And when we get there, we're going to eat oysters. And as we're coming back, Superman is walking with a young lady that looks to be, I believe, Mexican with long hair. And she's holding the hand of this little boy with floppy hair. And he's trying to get out of her arms. He's just wild and crazy. As he's introducing her to me, he then introduces the little boy and says, "This is my son." What? He's 2. So now we have baby number 5, who was born the same year as baby number 4 in 2013. So this is the real reason why you haven't been bothering me. And I knew that to be a fact because she was actually going through court with him. And now we're trying to change a narrative. Well, I did befriend her and we became very close. And she actually came down and celebrated my son's birthday with him. And I took him, my son, and also their sister to Fun Spot that year. We were also making trips to Atlanta because at this point he had been traded again and he was now with Atlanta. Also, let it be noted that Sister C and he had broken up. Unfortunately, this meant that I now had to deal with a crazy ass pastor and his wife that were constantly telling us how bitter we were and that we were gold diggers and that it wasn't about the kids and that we were worthless women who wanted him. We are now in 2018 and our son is playing sports, but he's also a junior striker, which is a hip hop dancer. His father did come to the show that year. It was in June. And after the show, he, along with some of his people and my people, we went to dinner. After dinner, a few friends of mine and I were supposed to go to the Pulse nightclub. We did not go to the Pulse nightclub because all of us were outside having a conversation with a homeless man. That is the night that the Pulse nightclub shooting happened. This is also the day that he told me that he was dating the basketball player. When he told me her age, and I was taken aback, but to each his own, because who am I? Pot me kettle, right? A few months later, right around our son's birthday, a recording was released. And the recording was a man who was alleging to have had deeds with Superman and the pastor arguing on the phone. This is the same conversation where this person called Superman a 6'11 bottom. Well, now moving on to 2019, I realized that I like this girlfriend. She
Now, Royce. Now, Royce, you know you did not have to say that so callously and calmly like that. A 6'11 bottom is crazy. I'm sorry, you guys. That's a tall tree to break down. Oh man.
she seems cool. She seems to keep him level headed. He seems to be leaving me alone, and I'm all for it. Anytime we are having an argument or we seem like we can't communicate, it seems as if she's stepping in and she's really helping things out. So we good. Our son graduates from elementary school that year. He graduates with honors. She comes. There's a big family picture, and we keep it pushing. So I thought she was cool. I liked her. We had a cordial relationship. Well, next thing you know, the pandemic hits, and he is losing his mind. He is swearing that the world is going to end, and he has all of us in a group thread, and he's trying to get all of us to come to Georgia for quarantine. I said no. So did mama number two. So did mama number three. But mama number four and mama number five said yes. I then thought about it. I spoke to my boyfriend. He was still against it. So I stuck with no. Just a few days after that is when I'm on the internet and I see a bunch of prayer hands under Mama Number Five's picture. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I get a call from Mama Number Four, Sister C, and she tells me that Mama Number Five has passed away. Of course, I pick up the phone and I start calling, and she's not answering, but I could not believe it. My dog is gone. She was the one that I was closest to. She was the one that I communicated the most with.
Mm.
I was heartbroken. After that, I am getting hounded even more so with phone calls about coming to Georgia for quarantine. At this point, because my heartstrings have been pulled, and because I have been in and out of court for years, I am waving my surrender flag. So I went to Georgia for quarantine, and it was the worst mistake I ever made in my entire life.
Oh, this is getting interesting.
Hey y'all, it's Royce, and I'm here to tell you a story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004 until even now. all because I had a baby by Superman Part 7. I decided to write a lot of this next part down because I wanted to make sure that I could recount everything in these last parts. So, excuse me for not constantly or consistently looking at the camera. February 2020, there is a text thread of conversations going on about possible quarantine in Georgia. This is with all of the mothers. Mother number 2 and number 3 said no. I ended up saying no after I spoke to my boyfriend, who is a traveling psychologist in the Bahamas. Damn, I fumbled that. A few weeks went on and the pandemic got worse. I got nervous. I got anxious, and going to my parents' house with all my pets was not an option. I looked for tickets to the Bahamas, but by then.
And if you guys are wondering what happened to the fifth baby mom, she died. Her name was Melissa Rios. She died from an epileptic seizure in California. And they said Howard said that dealing with Rios' death was one of the most difficult things he had to deal with. He attended her funeral and spent the NBA hiatus with his son David in Georgia. Howard said he planned to invite Rios to spend time with them in Georgia. So I'm guessing this was, the quarantine situation. Just to give y'all some clarity, because y'all know my mind, some of our minds probably went to a certain thing that probably happened. Let's continue.
And travel was restricted. In March of 2020, I am on Instagram and I see prayer hands under Mama number 5's Instagram. I'm confused. I get a phone call from Mama number 4, and she tells me that Mama number 5 has had a seizure and she has passed away. I'm devastated. I also get a phone call from Superman, and he is distraught. He's crying. He is so upset. He can barely compose himself, and he is begging for us to come for quarantine. He says he has received all these revelations, and he wants to make sure that his family is taken care of, and he wants to go through therapy. I mean, he lays it on thick. And after speaking to my boyfriend, I agreed to go. After a 7-8 hour drive, I, along with our son and our mini zoo, arrived at the estate in Sewanee, Georgia. It was late, so after getting our things out of the car and taking them into the guest house, I was called for dinner. It was awkward. Everyone was acting normal, and I later learned the people in the home were a groundskeeper, a trainer, a self-proclaimed guru, the nanny, his 16-year-old goddaughter, myself, my child, Mama number 4, and baby number 4. After I was at that table, I couldn't take it anymore, and I asked, why now? What happened? And he states that it is because he has received all these revelations, that he feels as if the world ending is almost a sign for him to make good with all bad and just a lot of stuff. He really was also claiming that he wanted to be a better father, and he wanted to apologize to all of us because he was basically a hoe. I listened to it. I also asked the nanny about why she would not allow my son to speak to me, or they would take his phone and not return his phone. I had to take him to court for that. I'm really like, I'm confronting everybody because I cannot stay in a house or be on a property where I feel uncomfortable and certain things haven't been addressed. That's just me. Later on that day is when I realized that he smoked like Snoop. I mean, day in, day out. Over the next couple of days, I was bit by a Malinois dog, and I also was made privy to a conversation regarding a former teammate of his and the passing of another. We were told that this particular teammate had no emotion when he was on the plane and did not show emotion until he exited the plane and left in a private car. Why that was important for us to know, I have no idea, but maybe it was because I used to praise and still praise how great of a father he is to his kids and husband he is to his wife. I actually ended up having a talk with my Bahamian boyfriend, who was a psychologist, about this conversation, and he told me to immediately leave. He said, Royce, you're about to be manipulated and brainwashed. I didn't believe him. I thought he was jealous. I stayed. Of course, we ended up breaking up. Well, now we're discussing Mama number 5's funeral and who's going to go and who wants to go. And who ends up going is Mama number 4, myself, Superman, and the groundskeeper. Mind you, during all of this time, Superman.
This whole listen. This whole house thing, like, it creeps. I would say creep. Yeah, it does creep me out. I'm sorry, it creeps me out. I don't know. It reminds me of that episode of Family Guy when everybody started getting murdered in the house. It triggers the shit out of me. I don't know. Maybe it's because of personal stuff I've been through. Like, I like the fact you wanted all of them. I know it was around the time with quarantine, but like, that's just odd to me. To have all the people that you literally have slept with and have low-key done wrong and left literal, like, you know, broken homes, all in a house living together is odd. I don't care if it's quarantine or not. That's just my opinion.
About possibly becoming his matriarch and all the apologies that come and him telling me that he was a changed man, that he was a little bit girl, and that he saw everything that he ever wanted. If I need to repost those messages, I could do that. Well, now we're in Reno, and I see Mama number 3 rubbing his back one day at the Mama number 5's Mama's house. The next day, we are at the funeral. I'm taking pictures because he has not seen this little boy in months, and I'm trying to give him memories. Later on that evening, we go back to the family house, and we all get drunk, and we're taking edibles. I ended up getting served that night. Let me just say it. I did. Okay. While we're in Reno, we get a phone call that.
I gotta repeat that again. Hold on.
Yeah, I did. Okay. Later on that evening, we go back to the family house and we all get drunk and we're taking edibles. I ended up getting served that night. Let me just say it. I did. Okay. While we're in Reno.
Now, served is not a word that I'm familiar to with fachen. So if she is saying that she fucked him, comment down below because I want to know. Because that throws me for a loop. What do you mean by that?
No, we get a phone call.
Because if so,
that former basketball girlfriend is at the house and she's playing with our kids. We thought that was a little strange, but he said that she was crazy and that she was just trying to get him back. That same narrative. Of course, I didn't believe it, but go off. When we returned back from Reno, I'm basically being sold a Disney movie plot. Now, I just didn't know that it was going to end up being Bambi. Well, I'm being asked to move in, be his matriarch, and telling me that he's going to get our son a personal trainer. He's going to get me another dance studio. He's saying that he knows Tyler Perry and can introduce me and get me in movies. And y'all, you have to remember that at this point, I am waving my surrender flag. I'm listening to all of these things. And because I have lost in court so many times, I am honestly willing to fall into submission so my son can fly to success. I don't regret doing that. I don't regret following what my heart felt to be true. During this time, we are also taking family trips to the grocery store, to the park, to the sex store. And one day he decides that he wants to have a meeting with myself and Mama number 4. He proceeds to basically try to sell us a polyamorous relationship. This
nigga, oh my God, that is so creepy. I couldn't do it. I don't know how she did that. Like, oh my God. One thing about me, like, if I'm in a place where I'm not comfortable, I'm gonna leave. I don't give a fuck. If I gotta pay the extreme amount to get out, I'm leaving. I'm not gonna stay. So I don't know how people can stay in uncomfortable situations. I get at that point she was uncomfortable, but just even going into it, it's like, no. One thing about me, I'm gonna leave. That's one thing the entertainers need to know. Pierre gonna leave. Here go.
This was suggested by his guru. Well, mama number four ended up leaving immediately. I think she stayed maybe 2 more days and she was gone. She packed up her shit and she left. Me, I laughed it off because did you really think that this was going to work? I don't even go that way. It's gone. She packed up her shit. This was suggested by his guru. Well, mama number four ended up leaving immediately. I think she stayed maybe 2 more days and she was gone. She packed up her shit and she left. Me,
You see that mama number four? That bitch got some brains. Not saying you dumb, Royce, but I'm just saying Royce, you could tell, is very easily manipulated. But because of all that stuff she went through with him legally, I could see why she wanted to just see if they could just be cool to the point where he doesn't fuck with her no more.
I laughed it off because did you really think that this was gonna work? I don't even go that way. I don't lick marbles.
Next
Oh,
day.
let me
Okay. Royce said, I am not with the cat eating.
also say that baby number five and his grandmother are now in Georgia as well. He has now flown them into Georgia so he can spend time with his siblings. Just a little while after mama number four left, I went home because I wanted to celebrate Mother's Day with my mother. While I'm there, I'm getting text messages. I mean, love bombed, y'all. Again, I can post them again if I need to. But it's a bunch of I miss yous. It's I don't want to say it, but I love you. And then he pretended like he was texting a friend of his and was like, man, I can't believe how much I miss Royce. Okay.
Whew.
We still doing them little high school games, but that's what he was doing. And he was begging me to come back sooner than I planned. And what did I do?
That's why that Amy Luciani, bitch, you gonna learn. Bitch, you gonna learn. And it is not gonna be a nice day the day that you learn. I'm telling you.
I left the next day. When I get back to Georgia, I am then seeing articles about how distraught how he's been crying himself to sleep, how the feeling of mama number five never coming back has really torn him up. And I'm confused because I had no idea that he was going through these feelings. I then befriended the groundskeeper because the groundskeeper knew mama number five very well. He proceeds to tell me that their relationship was actually pretty volatile, that they were in a court battle, that until recently there was no communication. He also let me know that when she was pregnant and when she had the child, she was forced to sleep on an air mattress and he would put her in a motel so people wouldn't know who she was or who the baby was. I was also made aware that he, in fact, did not pay for the funeral costs as he told Mama Number Five's family he would do. I started acting different, so he allowed me to invite a few friends over and we swam in the pool, we had seafood, we watched movies, and we played games. After that, I woke up in hell. Hey y'all, it's Royce, and I'm here to hey hey y'all, it's Royce, and I'm here to tell you a story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004, up until even now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part 8. We are still in May of 2020, and they are shooting something called Celebrity Peep Show at his house, in which our son is involved. Well, after a couple days, I have a migraine, and I decide to take a midday nap. When I wake up from that midday nap, I will go outside the guest house and it's beautiful outside. It's like a bluish orange, there's fireflies, but I see a bunch of cars and people everywhere. I'm wondering what the fuck is going on. We're supposed to be on quarantine. I see a familiar face and I can clearly tell that he is on something. And then I see Superman. I see Superman throwing up over the balcony. I go up to Superman and I'm asking him what the fuck is going on. And he looks at me crazy and he starts yelling at me. The familiar face then goes off on him and calls him a bitch. They start arguing. I'm asking where our son is. He's not responding. I go inside. When I go inside, not only do I see a table full of mushrooms and peanut butter, I also see powder and a woman peeing in a seat. I
Bitch,
immediately get
what?
scared and
I feel like I'm in the house at this point. I don't like this. What the fuck?
I run upstairs. I am looking for my
This
son.
shit stressing
I'm
me
yelling
out.
his name. He's hiding. I see my son hugging his knees in the corner of his room. I ask him if he is okay. He says that he's fine and that he's just scared. I asked him, scared of what? He said, why is daddy acting like that? I said, well, what do you mean? He was like, I was just hungry. I then asked my baby, if he had been downstairs. And at first he didn't want to tell me. I asked him several times and I said, it's okay. I promise you it's okay. And he tells me that he went downstairs, but he was just hungry. I then asked him if he ate anything off of that table. I asked him over and over again. He said no. I grabbed my child, I went downstairs, and I went out the front door, back to the guest house, back to my room. The next day, I go outside to walk my dogs and I see an argument. This is an argument between his guru and a friend of his named Callie. I am hearing Callie threaten this guru about trying him in a inappropriate way and that he is going to shoot and kill him. He is going to come back and shoot up the entire house. I, of course, then go back upstairs and I text the groundskeeper and I ask what the hell is going on. Mind you, that particular night, the groundskeeper was minding his business as well as the nanny because they were off the clock. Well, I'm expressing to the groundskeeper what was being said, and as I'm stating this to him, we're looking outside and we start seeing police cars drive by. I pretty much freak out and I start running around the entire property picking up paraphernalia because who finna go to jail? Not me. Well, I'm being
Girl. Oh my God. I don't know. I just feel like at one point Roy should have left. It's too many like signs. You got to get the fuck. I'm sorry. Like it's too many signs. No, 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 no. After that mushroom situation, you should have got the fuck. Uh-uh. Baby mama number 4 left because she saw what the fuck was going down. Damn.
told that I'm doing too much. Then Callie starts posting YouTube videos. Callie is recounting the entire evening. He is also stating that one of the moms was there with her kid. But Callie is talking about how he was tried inappropriately and all the different walks of life that were in the house that evening. Once the YouTube video is shown to Superman, he brushes it off like it's nothing. What ends up happening? Oh, Callie is now banned from YouTube and he's also in Facebook jail. Soon after that, I get into a blowout argument with Superman. I am discussing the situation with this party. I'm discussing how he is with homeschooling and our child. I'm discussing his recklessness, and he just does not want to hear it. We are arguing, up and down. He's bringing stuff up from the past, and the trainer is there to mediate. The trainer is trying to calm him down. It is not working. There is a moment that you see in a person's eyes when you know that you got them fucked up.
Mm.
I saw that moment and I knew that that night was the night that I needed to go home.
Oh yes.
Or I at least needed to get off that property. So what I did was we packed up all of our stuff in our zoo. I then went and got Braylon out of the main house and I begged for that trainer to let me out. And at 3:30 in the morning, he let me out. So I head to the Airbnb and I get a message that I can no longer check in early. I then have to call the trainer back. And he states that because there's nowhere place safe really for me to just sit in a car for hours in that part of Georgia with a child, a car full of stuff, and animals to come back. So I went back. But I was told to hide around the corner to where he could not see my car. He was now assuming that I was gone. I did just that. And once I was able to check into the Airbnb, I sent a text, and so did the trainer. And when Superman was gone, I escaped. I stayed in an Airbnb for a couple of weeks, and I actually spent time with Jennifer Williams and Royce Morgan. Love y'all. They actually kept my head together. I'm forever grateful. When I started heading home, I called my family, I called my friends, called my attorney, and
The fact that Jennifer Williams and her were cool after everything that happened, that's really nice. We saw the relationship they had on Basketball Wives. I really feel like because had Evelyn not been friends with Jennifer, her and Royce would have been cool. And that's just facts.
I called mama number two. I told her what I had just done, and she, of course, was like, "Girl, how crazy are you? You stupid. Like, how'd you fall for that? Don't ever do no dumb shit like that again." And she was absolutely right. When I got home, I received a phone call from grandma of
Y'all, this is my really first time reacting to like the ending of it. So like that's why it's stressing me out because I feel like Royce is such a good storyteller. I feel like I'm in the house, like on God, like bitch, I need to leave.
baby number 5, and she was asking me when I was going back. I told her I was not. I expressed to her my concerns, and she said that she was supposed to be going for Father's Day. I said, I would tell you not to go. And she's like, "Oh, well, I think it'll be okay." Well, grandma takes baby number 5 to Georgia for Father's Day. She is later kicked out of the house with guard dogs on the floor, and she did not see her grandchild for months. That is how he took custody of baby number 5 from his grandmother, who helped raise him when his father hadn't been in his life pretty much ever. I later learned that the plan was for me to stay in Georgia for an extended period of time so he could claim residency over our son and later kick me out of the house. He had asked me what my bills were, and he was talking about ending child support, and whatever my bills were, he was going to subtract that from what he gave me. I almost fell for it. I didn't, but somebody else did. What happened next is not my story to tell, but it turned my world upside down. I struggled for 2.5 years with suicidal thoughts and a lot of self blame. I'd also shut down my dance company and stated it was because I didn't enjoy teaching anymore, when in fact it was because I knew I needed to get my shit together. I then landed a job at an HBCU. I was proud of myself. It was a job that I enjoyed and that I really put my heart and soul into. I fought for that team every single day, and it kept my mind off of other things. In 2023, I attended the NAACP Awards. As I looked around, I saw all of these people that I looked up to and wanted so much to be like. I was amongst greatness. I realized at that moment that it was time to take my power back. I did the Heat Dancer reunion. I made amends with Tracy. We had a splash bash. We released lanterns for remembrance as well as emotional purges. I was doing well. In July, an accusation comes out about my child's father. In September, I do an interview with Carlos King. I then do another interview with Vlad TV. Followed by that was then an admission of what the accusation was. And like May said, I agreed with him when he said it's never consensual when it's a surprise. Well, 2024, I posted a reel and recounting 2023 and how excited I was. And I'm still not getting any child support, but I'm trying to make do. I'm using my savings because this can't continue to go on forever. My savings is now being drained, and I'm offered a basketball wives contract.
Ooh.
After talking it over with my attorney, they think that it's a good idea for me to take it. Yes, the person who said I would never go back to that show, I was going to go back. So Superman #1 was correct when he said somebody needs money. Well, yeah, because your predecessor ain't shit. Hey, y'all, it's Royce, and I'm here to tell you a story.
Now that would have been
Hey,
good
y'all,
to
this
see if
is
she did go
Royce,
back.
and I'm here
But
to
as
tell
we
you.
know, she didn't.
Hey, y'all, this is Royce, and I'm here to tell you a story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004, until even now, all because I had a baby by Superman, Part 9, the final chapter. As I stated before, I agreed to take the 113K because I figured I would be able to flip the money that I was receiving from the Basketball Wives contract. I had also received a contract for an artist development company in New York, and I just felt like I was good. I also still had my job at the HBCU. Well, shortly after, I am headed to the airport. I get there, I check in, I go through TSA. I have my cat with me. When I get to the gate, I go to the gate and I just want to make sure that everything is okay with me and my pet. He says, I just sold your ticket. I asked him why, and he said someone refunded it. I get on the phone, and that is how I found out that they had canceled my Basketball Wives contract. I'm not saying he had anything to do with it, but that's what happened. Later on in 2024, I was fired from my HBCU job. I was actually fired during the same week that my father had a heart attack. I was then blasted on the internet, called names, and harassed by some of my former athletes, and I remained quiet. I watched them belittle and degrade me and realized that no matter how much I fought for those athletes and what I brought to that program, the culture of this generation has changed. Over the past couple of months, Superman has been harassing our son. He's also been harassing the school. He's been calling our son names and dehumanizing me. I told our son to go to California and support him on a TV show, despite the fact that he did not want to go. I said, make it more about the opportunity than the visit. Enjoy your siblings. He still had no desire to go, and even after speaking to both sets of his grandparents, Superman again and Mama #2, he said no. I still talked him into going. Over the past couple days, Superman has decided to harass our son again. I am listening to my child laughing and joking while playing PlayStation, only to then it turn into yelling and, yes, cursing. I walk into the room and I realize that he is talking to Superman. Superman is dehumanizing me. Superman is calling me broke. Superman is basically expressing to my child that I am a deadbeat mother. He says, your mom needs to get a job. Well, just so you know, I did restart my company. I also sub at schools. I also teach gymnastics after school. And I do teach private lessons. I'm pretty much like a Jamaican. I have plenty jobs. Because one thing you won't do is break me. So as you sit here and you decide that you want to rewrite history, I think is one thing that is important to know. I am the one with the paperwork. I am the one with all the phones. I have told you to leave me the fuck alone. As we go into 2025, my prayer for you is not blessings, it's hell. Happy New Year. Oh, and Tiffany's story coming soon, 2025. That's Mama #2. Bye. Hey.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. First of all, the reason why I won't believe her is one, it takes a lot of strength to just come on the internet and just blast all your business. It doesn't matter how known you are. Nobody wants to tell their deep, dark secrets. Like some of the stuff she said, it didn't make her look good. Like that whole 2020 period, it didn't make her look good at all. It actually made her look, very dumb. So that in itself makes me respect her 10 times more. It makes her even more believable because it's not like she made herself look all innocent. She actually admitted where parts where she looked and did some dumb shit. So that ending part is why it frustrates me when I see people on the internet say, "Oh, why is she saying this and that?" If somebody is berating you to your child, anybody would snap. I don't care who you are. So for people to act like she just came out the blue because she seen him with Amy and was like, "Oh my God," no. And Amy, God gonna get you. That's all I'm gonna say. And that's that on that. I still do think though that she should take this all down and maybe try to go for like I would say a book, but the book would be the same thing because he would file legal paperwork against that. But I just feel like when it comes to her and her mental health of this year, just to have like a ease of mind, because now we've all seen and heard the story. So at this point, there's not much more, we need to know because the ones that are smart see what the fuck is going on. Okay. So shout out to her for having strength to really air out her business like that. Let me know what you guys think down below about this entire situation and the details of her story, you guys. All right. No personal thing.